ranked. I think because before, I think 23 was, because 22 was Nebraska Northwestern, 23 was Notre Dame and Navy. So they at least got Notre Dame, but it was also a blowout.
I skipped that one, but it was fanfare, right? It was service to the.
Yes, because obviously a lot of Notre Dame fans there. It felt very appropriate. I wouldn't even be opposed to Notre Dame playing that game every year. But now you're getting a ranked-on-ranked matchup. Last year with Florida State, Georgia Tech, really good game. Fantastic football game. But one team was top 10. The other one was not. So maybe the juice going into it, maybe not as much as Iowa State, Kansas State.
Well, yeah, that's true. The juice going into it wasn't as big, but it provided us with run the ball.
Yep.
It gave us an insight into what Florida State was going to end up being. Maybe it seems what Georgia Tech is. It actually started the football season because everybody was – if you weren't watching, you probably got one of those texts like, hey, yo, are you watching this?
Florida State, Georgia Tech right now in Ireland.
And you're like, oh, really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah, I'm flipping there right now.
Yeah.
I watched that entire game, but it was well worth it. And I think it's going to be well worth it on Saturday. But for us here in this market, we'll have that first Saturday of college football a week from Saturday, and then have to wait an extra day for Carolina, Virginia Tech while you're sitting and enjoying all those other headline matchups in week one that we have. But it means we're still in camp, still practicing, and we talked about what the sources had to say about scrimmage and what the sources are saying about camp. Well, earlier this week, I think everybody in the media got to talk to the main source. We got to hear it from the horse's mouth. That's Shane Beamer. You think he was at practice?
I think he was there.
You think he was at the scrimmage?
I think he had a very good vantage point.
Does this count as firsthand knowledge of the program?
Yes.
Or a source really close to the program?
Someone inside the building.
I think so. I think so, too. So we'll get his insight right now about what happened on that scrimmage, and we will start with what he thought were the most impressive things from that scrimmage. This will be cut 8 from yesterday's list, Jen.
Offense didn't turn the ball over. That was good. I look back at my notes from last year. They didn't turn the ball over in that scrimmage last year either. Now, y'all heard me talk about we did in the season some, but that was good to have. I mean, we got, I think, 117 plays in the other night, and the year before that scrimmage was 108, I believe. So we got more plays, and there were no turnovers. Now, there were some plays, some throws where receivers got their hands on the throw and probably should have been an interception, but they weren't able to finish the catch. So that's good. I think when you can go in there and have 117 plays and not turn the ball over, that's a start, because we know how important turnover margin is in college football. And then just seeing young guys make plays. I thought we punted the ball well in there. We did some good things from a special teams standpoint, and then seeing young guys being in the stadium for the first time and handling that environment.
Now, Preston, are you concerned the defense didn't force any turnovers, or because maybe of the nature of some of these practices where maybe the quarterback might not be live or anything like that, the nature of a scrimmage, that it's actually more of a good thing the offense did not turn the ball over?
I'll roll with that. The offense did not make any turnovers. That means they didn't do many things stupid, even though he said that there may have been some possible plays where there. Isn't there a metric for this now?
Turnover-worthy plays.
There he is.
On Pro Football
Maybe there might have. There we go.
There might have been some TWPs.
There might have been some TWPs. But they weren't turnovers, so they don't count. So I'll take that. But Shane referenced something that if you've been listening to this show, then you're already aware of. He said, we know how important turnover margin is. And if you've been listening to this show, I believe a week ago, maybe 2, that was last week, we talked about how important turnover margin is. We talked about how they value the idea of turnover margin. So the turnover margin for the scrimmage was solid, and that's something that I think you can build on.
It absolutely, yeah. That's a plus. Well, it tells you the offense is probably further along. You know, we said last year they didn't turn the ball over in that scrimmage, but you still had a question of how far along the offense actually was, considering it was Lenoris's first year as a full-time starter. There was more to figure out with what the identity of your offense is going to be last year. Your entire camp leading up into the season was more of an acclimation project for the offense than it is going into this year when you do return the quarterback, you do return a couple of key offensive linemen, you do return a good chunk of your receiving core from last year that's really experienced. I would expect the offense to be a little further along.
Yeah, you can expect all you want, but in 117 plays, that means that there weren't no bad snaps, there were no bad exchanges, there weren't any fumbles. So yes, you probably reasonably could expect, but also living up to that expectation and not doing any of those silly things. That means Boaz Stanley had a great scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And when I say great, that means he just got the ball from A to B, which
operationally.
is exactly, you talk about operations. He snapped the ball. He caught the ball. They exchanged the handoff. He took the handoff. He got tackled. He went to the ground with the ball. All of those things happened. So we're not saying that this is something that you should be raving about, but it is.
Don't pop any champagne bottles over this.
Yeah, but it is a step in the right direction. I do firmly believe that.
I think so too, and that's it. I'm so big on the operation in camp because how many times do you see a team come into the season, fail to do the most basic of stuff in their first game? And that's why some teams will schedule your smaller schools, your FCS schools. You know, that's might be why an Ohio State or a Georgia is playing Marshall, or an Ohio State would play Akron like they did last year, right? Sometimes there are some operational things that you just need to get out of the way. In a game like Virginia Tech, with how South Carolina is opening up their season, getting that stuff taken care of and it not being a factor way before the season starts and having that mastered is a really big plus, because this is such an important game to start the season. Yes, they're all going to be really important.
Yeah.
But the level of competition is amped up. And how many times in that Old Dominion game last year did it feel like if it wasn't the operation that was struggling, there was a lot of things on offense that just didn't feel like they were in sync. Mm-hmm. I think this is a plus. And they ran more plays in the scrimmage this year than they did last year. Last year, I think they were at 108 in their scrimmage. They ran an additional 9 plays in this year's scrimmage. And without turning the ball over, that's a plus. Without any fumbled exchanges, bad snaps or anything like that, where that is perfectly normal. That happens to teams in camp all the time. You're a little further along in the things that really matter to at least get your team ready for the season. It sounds silly and it sounds fundamental and basic, but that stuff matters a ton.
It allows you to move on to the next thing. Yes. I know we have this taken care of now. Now we can move on to some more of the technical things that make our offense really make our offense explosive or get to the next level, however you want to choose, because there's nothing more frustrating than it's like going to college. Kids are going back to college now. They don't have to take offense 101 or remedial offense, right?
Right.
They can move on to 102 now. They can move on to 110 or whatever the case is. They are moving forward just for the fact that at least they did not have to worry about exchanges, snaps, handoffs, blah, 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 blah. So I do really think that's encouraging news.
For Mike Shula, too, you get to implement more of your bells and whistles. You get to get further into your offensive playbook a little bit. Or think back on that Old Dominion game last year and how the offense looked and the stuff that they ran. Felt more basic than when we got to, let's just say, the Alabama game, right? Where I go back and think about one of my favorite designs from last year was the shovel pass to Josh Simon that got him a first down, right? And they ran a very similar play against Oklahoma. But that's the type of stuff you can start doing earlier in the season because you don't have to worry about the exchange.
I just hear a coach, I'm trying to implement ghost motion and we can't even get a snap.
And losing it. It's absolutely
that's the type of stuff that makes coaches blow gaskets. So I'm sure there were a lot of things that they needed to correct, but they didn't have to correct any of the remedial things, and that is a positive.
So that's where the offense is at with the scrimmage. Shane also talked about how the defense performed in the scrimmage. That we cut 14 from yesterday.
Defensively, I thought they did a good job of responding. Offense in the scrimmage the other night got off to a good start in their first 4 drives. 2 of them I thought were really productive drives. And I don't want to say defense was on their heels, but they didn't get off probably to as good a start those first 4 drives. But then it was cool to see them respond. We had a goal line period where the defense really responded and flipped a switch and then played well the rest of the night as well. So it was good to see those guys respond. And we played a lot of our young guys, a lot of the guys guys that competition's ongoing, but a lot of the guys that are returning starters did not play maybe as much as some of these young guys that we need to make decisions on. And then with the kickers, all of them got opportunities the other night, and all of them, certainly had some really good moments, and all of them had, a kick or two that they'd like to have back. We kicked a lot, but we're doing more of that now, just trying to figure out what that is or who it is as well. So pleased overall with that.
Two things that I thought were the most important things in that cut right there. Goal line defense being good, because that, if you want to evaluate your defensive line, what better way to do it than at the goal line, where it is at the most physical juncture of the football field in a game, as Clark Brooks has described to us, a game of violent real estate transaction. When you don't have much real estate left to surrender and you have to protect the little that you have, your defensive line needs to be really good. What's the thing we've been talking about this year when it comes to this defense and the difference between them being what they were last year and being a unit that's going to be hemorrhaging points? The defensive line. That's going to be vitally important. I think it is encouraging, probably the best word to put it, that the defensive line held well in a goal line situation, and you got to see what you had from a lot of the young guys that you're going to rely upon in certain important spots, especially in the linebacking room.
Yeah, that is encouraging. Now, I've been on note of saying we don't want to have the offense ahead of the defense initially. That's not a great sign. And so when Shane says that, he tried to soften the blow and he tried to massage it a little bit.
Didn't want to say they were on their heels.
Didn't want to say that, yeah. But what I hear is that the offense got off to a good start, and then they responded. And that's great if you respond as a defense. The only problem is if you're playing defense, the offense gets off to a good start on the first 4 drives, that could be 28-0. Mm-hmm. And it could be something that you can't respond from, and that's something you could play great the rest of the game. And say the Oklahoma game last year or something along the line. They didn't play bad the rest of the game. It was just too late. Yeah. So that's something that would make me perk my ears up a little bit and say, all right, let's see how that goes in the next scrimmage, because I do firmly believe that early in preseason camps, defense should be ahead of offense.
Yeah, I think this year is a fair exception because of where your experience is.
Correct.
I think I would, if you just take it on a case-by-case basis, I think I would be a little concerned if the offense wasn't able to move the ball a little bit, given what you have coming back. But it's a really good point that if the defense doesn't start off games really well, you can find yourself where dominating the fourth quarter doesn't matter, because you will have dug yourself too big a hole. And I think that Oklahoma game last year is just the perfect example of, if you don't get off to a really good start, it doesn't matter what you do in the fourth quarter. You can run the ball and stop the run for the last 3 quarters, but when you get down 21-0, there's not much more you can do, right? Yeah. I think that's the perfect example of that. So that kind of leads us to our question of the day. Where is the team right now, and what would this tell us about what to expect in the opener against Virginia Tech? Now, coming up, we have a good mix of returning talent, youth, and transfers. But what is this team better at now in the middle of August compared to last year, or maybe some previous seasons in the Shane Beamer era? I asked Coach Beamer that, and his answer, interesting. We'll tell you what that is when the early game continues.
No accidents at this time. Wonderful news in that respect. And as far as your forecast goes, yeah, a little bit of rain this morning and some rain off and on throughout the day. Maybe a thunderstorm popping up in there. Should be ending later on, like later this afternoon, early evening. Tomorrow, we look for some PM storms and much of the same on Saturday. So today's high 88, 92, tomorrow 89 for your Saturday. A little bit of light rain across the Midlands, 78 currently on 107.5. The Game.
We are a few weeks into camp now, and we're only 17 days to kick off. And we're talking about where this Carolina team is right now on August 14th as we head into the season opener. And we'll go ahead and go to our AAA Heating and Air phone lines because David wants to talk about the current backup quarterback situation, which I would say is in an interesting spot. David, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning, gentlemen. And good morning, Jen. My feelings are quite simple. If Luke Doty is the second string quarterback, then I think the quarterback room is in trouble if Norris has an injury, because if a room full of full-time quarterbacks can't beat out a part-time quarterback for the number 2 position, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And also, I hate the dreaded sources within the program term. Hope y'all have a good morning, and thanks for what you do.
Appreciate you, David. Yes,
Fair enough.
That's why, yeah, our source for today's show will be the sounds from Shane Beamer, who I think would maybe the strongest source within the program right now. But it's an interesting point about Luke Doty, because he still mentioned earlier this week that if they were to have been playing this week, and something were to have happened to Lenores, knock on every bit of wood that you got around you right now, no matter what it is, knock on something, that Luke Doty would be the backup. And I think that might come more so just from an experience standpoint, because neither Aaron Nolan nor Cutter Woods have taken meaningful snaps at the college football level. That's one where, when you're trying to read in between tea leaves here, is hard to figure out. Just because you would like to see what you have in those guys at certain points. I think once we get to, let's say, the South Carolina State game, second game of the year, first home game, you should be winning comfortably enough at halftime to where you get to see those guys in the second half. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot more in terms of getting to evaluate these players when the bullets are flying and you're in a real football game situation than maybe you can in practice right now. I do firmly believe that the Luke Doty being the backup quarterback thing is more so he is more prepared to do that right now within this offense. There's not going to be a ton of change with what this team does with Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator compared to when Dow Loggins was the OC last year. There's a familiarity factor and a continuity that I think early in the season would matter. Now, once we get several weeks into the year, you're no longer a freshman anymore, right? Like that old saying, like you're no longer a freshman once you get to like October, November, right? You are a full-time member of a college football team. I think that's when that's going to shape out a little bit. I just think because when you've had those guys in the quarterback room from the spring into now, you think there still might need to be more seen. So if I have a panic meter on Luke Doty being the backup quarterback, I'd probably put it maybe at like a 5.5, but I understand David's point for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Shane addressed this sort of on Tuesday. We have some clips. I want to, so we can hear from the source.
Yes,
so we can hear from source. I believe this is clip 3, where Shane is talking. This is clip 3 from Wednesday, where Shane is talking about Luke Doty. So let's just hear what he says about his situation.
No, he's a really good football player. So, yes, he's still the number 2 quarterback right now. And, yes, he's continuing to work in a lot of areas. He's working on all of our special teams, all of them, meaning our 4 core, punt, pressure, kickoff return. He's working on all those. He's working in the return game. He's just really smart. He's a talented guy, and he's improved as a quarterback. So yes to all that.
Jen said the magic words. She mouthed it to us. Right now.
I think that's the heavy emphasis on that phrase.
And he's working on other things.
So the heavy emphasis on
air quotes.
Right now at this. So the question's always been framed like at this moment, right now, if the game were today. And I think that's what he's saying. Now, does he want that to happen? He also mentions in Genesis clip 13 where he talks about the difference between Cutter Woods and Aaron Nolan. What a great set of names.
Oh, in terms of quarterback battles in all of football, college, high school, NFL, you're not going to have a better set of names competing against each other than Cutter Woods and Aaron Nolan.
I mean, that's almost what you want on like a presidential ticket.
It sounds amazing. So here's the difference. This is Shane is 13, him talking about the difference between the two.
Great competition. Cutter and Air continue to improve. The first thing I would say, Jordan, is both those guys have really improved since spring practice. You see the work they put in over the summer. They're having fun out there. They're moving around well. And they each are flashing as well, as is Luke. So, I mean, Luke's the backup right now. Those guys are competing and pushing. They're all pushing one another. But we'll see. We'll certainly want to narrow things down as we get closer to game day here in a couple weeks. But those guys have all had really good moments and moments that they're young quarterbacks that you want to teach off of as well. But I'm excited about it. There's ability in that room, and they continue to get better.
Yeah, I think there is. I think they love the ability that both guys have. And there's certainly more upside because clearly they both have a lot of time left on their college football eligibility clock. This is it for Luke Doty. He's been around the entire Shane Beamer era and has played a multitude of positions. Really, going back to Jen's point, the right now is the big takeaway because maybe he's more ready to play right now. Again, Cutter Woods, true freshman. You wouldn't want to throw him in week one when he's only had a handful of practices in the spring because you only get how many practices in the spring? Like
15.
15? Yeah. And then in the fall, you're getting a similar amount of practices. Luke Doty's gone through many practices. Many. Aaron Nolan went through a season of practices at Ohio State with no real plans to play him. I think in terms of just being ready at this moment, Luke Doty makes sense. But once we get, this is a check back in with us in October type deal.
I'll push it a little bit forward because your panic meter's at, you said 5.5?
5.5.
I'll bump it up. I'll say no 7s on the panic meter. I'll bump it up to 6, though.
Okay.
I'll bump it up to 6. Not panic yet, but if we come out of the next 2 scrimmages and we're still having this conversation and Luke is still the backup quarterback and all of a sudden we're not using the phrase right now and we're saying he's going to be our backup, then I might worry. And it's not anything about Luke, but it's about the other two. Mm-hmm. Aaron Nolan being so highly recruited, 4-star guy, Cutter Woods coming out of high school, making a splash. I want one of them to get up and take that position.
And how much of this do you think is a message, not from Shane Beamer to the local media, but a message from Shane Beamer to Cutter Woods and Aaron Nolan to maybe motivate them to take it as opposed to just battling each other? You have to, it's putting it in their minds, you got to be better than this guy too.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that. And it's not as if they're saying, hey, you guys need motivation, but saying there is another spot before we trust you with this very sacred position on the hype train, right? We need another car on the hype train, and it's very sacred. You need to earn it before we trust it. We inherently, I think this is what this saying is, we inherently trust Luke.
Yes.
Because he's been around. We know him.
He's been around for a while.
We don't know you that well yet. We need to get to where we trust you, or you need to do some things that make you jump, or flash is the word he used, to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So I'm 6 right now. You talk to me after the next scrimmage and we're still here, then I might be a little bit more concerned.
It might bump it up just a little bit, but that's something that definitely, I think David's right.
David, great point.
To keep an eye on as we get a little closer to the season opener. But where the team is as a whole right now, there's one thing that stood out to Shane as something that they are better at now than they have been in any August since he's been the head coach. We'll tell you what that is next on the early game.
Presser here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. How do I know? Because I was born in 1982, and last time I checked, over 40. That's a long time. Third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. And Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
I-20 eastbound between Highway 378 and Bush River Road. There appears to be an accident there. Also, I-26 eastbound at exit 110. Also have a report of an accident. Going to see some off and on showers today. Maybe a thunderstorm might pop up. 88 for the high, 92 tomorrow with some afternoon or evening storms. And for Saturday, afternoon or evening storms, 89 is the high we'll be looking for. Some scattered light rain across the Midlands right now. It's 78 on 107.5 The Game.
Football season's close, but what's even closer is our expansion into Charleston. WIWF 96.9 HD3. Starting Monday, August 18th, you'll be able to hear the game, of course, here in Columbia, where we're sitting right now, Myrtle Beach and Florence, like you've been able to for the last couple of years. But now you can hear us on the terrestrial airwaves over in Charleston. And then, of course, if you're outside those areas, we're always available on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming at The Game TV radio on YouTube, like we have been for a while, too. You can see me waving right here. You can see our fancy little countdown clock to the season. So I'm trying to figure out which way to point, which is this way. 412 hours left until we kick off the season.
You know, we're kind of like a bad penny. We just kind of turn up anywhere and
We
everywhere.
do, yeah. Like,
But we're a good penny, but I'm
it's
just saying.
still worth something, nonetheless.
We might be worth a penny. But you don't even have to pay that.
That's right. A penny would be more expensive than accessing our content.
Exactly.
We're not even charging that.
No.
Best part.
We'd like to think it's worth more than a penny, but we're not even charging
Yes,
that. So,
exactly.
Just saying.
Undervalued because it is worth more than a penny.
Yes.
Talked about how we consume college football yesterday and how all that's changed. One thing that's not changed will still be free.
That's correct.
Free as a bird. But when it comes to South Carolina and where this team is, because that's kind of our theme for the day, where are they right now? What is the state of the team right now as we get ready to go into the opener with just 17 days until kickoff, a smidge over 2 weeks? I asked Shane Beamer on Tuesday about where this team is in relation to where they've been in previous years. What are they better at now in the middle of August than maybe in some of his previous years as the head coach at South Carolina? And Jen, this will be cut 6 from yesterday's list.
I would think situational football, and that's mainly just because Lenoris is a little bit older. Not a little bit. He is older than what he was last year. He's a year older. So, yeah, he knew that. But, you know, in the afternoon, so we practice in the mornings, and then there's a break now that our players have where the coaches go and watch tape. And then in the afternoons, we do a walkthrough at 4. We start media. We do a special teams meeting and offense, defense meetings around 4. And then about 5:20, we have a walkthrough in the indoor that we do for about 45 minutes, and we always finish up the walkthrough each day with some sort of situational football aspect. And there were some days last year where having a new quarterback, whether it be Lenoris or Robbie, and it's their first time going through a lot of those scenarios. There were a couple walkthroughs where I blew a gasket last year, and because it wasn't getting operated and we didn't make good decisions. Not that we're perfect, myself included, because you're always learning and trying to be better in those situations. We did something today that clockwise that, you know, I learned from as well. But I think we're so much farther along from that standpoint where Lenoris goes out there and we do the same thing that we did last year, and it's just, and he's just a machine at it. And Luke, really good. And, you know, they remembered that walkthrough last year didn't go as well. And Luke kind of grabbed me afterwards. He's like, we got your back this year, coach. Like, we're good. We're so much farther along. And he's right. You know, we spent a lot of time on it, just like last year. And we spent so much time talking about it throughout the season. I think we're farther along, at least at the quarterback position. Now, you still got freshman receivers and freshman defensive backs that haven't done that. But at least when your quarterback is more experienced, it goes a long way.
Found it to be an interesting response considering if there's anything that you need to be better at now than maybe last year at this point, situational football is a good thing to get into as being one of those things, because when you're playing a team like Virginia Tech, where Virginia Tech, despite being 7-5 last year, did play a lot of one-score football games. They were in a lot of games. It's a neutral field game. There's a good chance that this thing might be tight for 2.5, 3 quarters. Playing situational football and already having that part of the game down for your offense does make it feel like you're further along this year than you might have been last year.
Yeah, I just think about Shane blowing a gasket. Like, what are we doing? You know, like, we're trying. You cannot call a timeout right there. Or whatever,
We don't have timeouts.
Yeah, whatever Shane's version of blowing a gasket, that I would love to see it.
And I don't think we really have a sense of that until last year in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, that definitely
he blew a
counted.
gasket.
Yeah.
That
Definitely
counts.
counted as blowing a gasket for sure.
That counts.
So I would love to see what that looks like for him in that situation. But yeah, you want to practice those things over and over again. You can't do it enough. You can't have enough opportunities. And as he said, we always like to focus on players, But hey, coaches need to go through these situations also to figure out what they're going to do so that they don't end up like some of these coaches that get a bad rep for not being good. You don't want to be Mario Cristobal.
Nope.
You don't want to have that.
Les Miles.
You don't want to be wearing that jacket or the Les Miles jacket. You don't want to be doing that. So, yeah, it's always great for them to be doing that a little bit more often. And again, Luke Doty, you've been playing college football for a long time. You should have this situation.
You should have this down pat.
You should understand.
Absolutely.
You should understand every situation. You've seen it all.
Yes, he's seen it all. He's been through it all. He has practiced a lot in that facility.
Right.
But I think that it's very encouraging because what it tells me too, that Lenoris has applied what was learned last year. I think at the quarterback position too, when it comes to making that next step for a next season, sometimes there is just such a reliance on your talent that there is maybe not enough reliance on that experience or using some of the bad experiences that you might have had last year to apply those lessons and help push you forward. So when it comes to things like maybe footwork in the pocket, intermediate passing accuracy, protecting the football, some of the things that we talk about that can make Lenoris go from what he was in the last 6 weeks of last season and to being better and to being a possible Heisman candidate and to being the best quarterback in college football. There's still those steps that need to be taken, and I think he is taking those, or at least applying some of those lessons early, and I think that's just kind of a microcosm of that, is being more efficient and running the operation in situational football a lot better now in early August than they did of early August of last year.
And again, if we're not worried about the snap or the hold or the fumbles or anything like that, we can get to the higher levels of football. We can start talking about situations. We can start talking about if-thens or what-ifs or all these types of things that talking about high IQ guys. You can't get to football IQ if you can't get a snap or if you can't make a handoff. So, again, I will say that the less turnovers you have in practice, the more opportunities you have to get better at these upper level things. So I do think that's a quality aspect as far as the practice, far as the practice that they're getting right now.
And it's a small thing, but when I ask the question, Shane immediately goes to situational football. Sometimes coaches will say a couple things because they're kind of trying to think about what it is they want to answer the question
They're probably
with.
like, yeah, we're not better.
Where it's like, well, I mean, got to think about it. Now, I mean, I will say it doesn't tell you much, but it does tell you that as soon as he heard that question, he was prepared with something, and obviously he's not being tipped off to what he's going to be asked before this, but that tells you that that is that much further along because he said it pretty confidently and pretty quickly as soon as the question was asked. So I feel like out of all the things that you can be like a little ahead on, situational awareness, having that high football IQ, and a fully functioning operation from center to quarterback and everybody else in between is certainly a good starting spot. I think they're ahead of where they were last year.
And again,
they should be.
We can stop being dumb, and then we can get to smart.
Yes.
So let's stop being dumb first.
Uh-huh.
Right? We get take care of all the dumb things. I imagine that's where Shane blew a gasket. Once we take care of those, then we can start playing some smart football.
Yeah, a little after that. And it's fun to get to that level right there, too. But continuity, being better than last year, is a big test for Shane Beamer. But the Beamer Ball brand has its toughest test yet, and that's replacing an entire unit. How they've been simulating pressure kicks and what do the special teams unit looks like when you replace pretty much every important player on it. Shane talked about that as well. We'll hear what he had to say next here on the early game. The Beamer Ball brand, dating back to Frank Beamer. Dominant special teams, being reliable in the kicking game, being really good at punt and kick coverage, getting a little frisky with some fake field goals and punts. Well, for the first time since Shane Beamer has been the head coach at South Carolina, he's coming into a season with an entire new specialist unit. Kai Kroger ain't walking through that door. None of the previous kickers he's had walking through that door. Hunter Rogers, long snapper, ain't walking through that door. You can do Holder, too. That's really important. But where are the special teams units right now when it comes to readiness for the season and evaluating where the special teams unit is? We'll start with cut number 10 from yesterday, is talking about the unit as a whole and where they're at with all this wholesale change.
I think we're moving along. I thought, like I said, we've punted the ball well, consistently. I feel like we have kicked well for the most part. Always could be a little bit more consistent. So pleased there. Return game, we've spent a lot on. We don't really do a lot of live, really none. Cover a kick and tackle. It's all, tag off or thud up. But I feel like we've made improvement in the return game, and we got some guys that can certainly run, that have size and speed and can cover kicks as well. So I'm pleased. This will be a big week for us this week as well, but they're really, really working hard. And it's awesome, though. You talk about culture and guys being able to see other guys do things. I mean, seniors, Brian Thomas, DQ Smith. I mean, those are two guys that are really doing a great job and working really, really hard on special teams. So it's a great moment when you're able to show those guys on tape doing that to younger guys as well, because a lot of these freshmen, when they come in, they didn't come to South Carolina to be the left tackle on the punt team. I mean, I'm going to go play linebacker and I'm going to go play the running back and all that. So making them understand, because a lot of them probably didn't play special teams in high school, and making sure they understand the importance of it and really emphasizing to them. We've got 114 players on our roster right now, and we're only allowed to take 74 to SEC away games. So making sure those guys understand that those are hard decisions every week, who the 74 that we take are. And a lot of the times it's going to come down to special teams.
So those are pretty big positions, and it sounds like there's at least really good competition, camaraderie, and there's buy-in. I think the most important part of that entire clip was the buy-in that a lot of guys have in making an impact on special teams.
He made a very strong point, is the idea that, hey, man, you didn't recruit me to come play special teams. I didn't get recruited to be a gunner. That's not what I got here.
Not the selling point,
right,
usually.
But you have to let people understand that is your way to either get on the field, move up the depth chart, get the coach's attention, travel, as he said. It has to have buy-in. And as he said, if your leaders take special teams seriously, they're not trying to get out on special teams, they're not trying to take a break, then everybody else has no choice but to fall in line with what the importance is. And if you play for a Shane Beamer team, because a lot of coaches like to talk about, it's a third of the game. Offense, defense, special teams, it's a third of the game.
Equally a third. Yeah.
It's not for a lot of teams. This happens to be one particular team and culture where it is, and everybody knows that they have to participate accordingly.
All right, we got a short amount of time here. Connor is on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Connor, welcome to the early game.
Hey, Elijah. Hey, Preston. How are y'all?
Fantastic. How are you?
Great. I just wanted to chime in for a second. I heard y'all play a little bit of Shane Beamer's press conference, but last time I was watching it, I created a new little activity, a new little game I like to play. And it's a new drinking game. So I listen in, and every time I hear Shane Beamer utter the words, as well, I just go, as well, and then I drink. So, anyways, I just wanted to say, y'all have a great show. I just wanted to let y'all know about that. Y'all have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks, Connor.
That's
yeah,
funny.
He does say it a lot.
And we all have our crutches.
That's a tough one to critique as somebody who speaks for a living. It's like, I know I say things a lot, and how am I going to try not to say that over and over again?
Well, here's the thing. It's like whack-a-mole for me, because when I first got started and I was doing TV in college, we had our own sports show and everything, and my mom would watch, and I would get a text saying, if you go one more time, I will drive to Murfreesboro and I will beat it out of you, right? And so then I have fixed that, and then I will lean on to other things and then I start doing other things that I have as a crutch or a space filler, and I never fully coach the whole space filler thing out of there. Everybody has their space filler, and I know
We do.
Shane's for sure is as well.
Yeah, he's trying to get to the next point. He's trying
Yeah.
to figure out the next thing
That's
he wants
his
to
segue.
include. That's his segue. for
Verbal
it.
punctuation
That being said, I will be on notice for that as well.
as well.
Yeah,
We'll be on notice for that.
It is something to listen for in press
that's
conferences.
very interesting.
But I try to figure out, what mine will eventually become. Because once I stop one, another one kind of spawns out of nowhere.
Correct.
And I don't notice it until somebody else points it out.
And I'll notice it like if I do or if I record an interview or something, and I'll go and I'll edit it all out so that nobody hears how really dumb I sound. But then it puts into my head like I've got to watch that. So
I've got to work on it.
Yeah.
See, that's why, having my mom's best as a resource, telling me what I continuously do verbally that is really annoying to her. And usually it's like grammatically related.
Yeah.
More discussion on Gamecock practice and other practice headlines from around college football. That kicks off hour number 2 of the early game next. For many folks, the biggest barrier to receiving quality physical therapy after surgery or to help manage their chronic pain is the travel to get there. Sometimes, if you need physical therapy, you might not be able to drive yourself, or if you don't have anybody available to take you, which is very common, that becomes a big barrier, and sometimes you just go without that care that you need. But for Vertex PT Specialists, they take that barrier completely out of the equation because it's skilled physical therapy delivered right to your door. That's right. It's their outpatient home health team. Instead of just doing it at their location, you can always go to their locations and be able to get that physical therapy. But they do bring one-on-one clinic-level care straight to your home, and they're serving Lexington and Richland counties. It doesn't matter if you're recovering from surgery or managing that chronic pain or condition, or if you just need the convenience of home-based care. You don't even really need a reason. If you just want to have it at home, they got you covered. Give them a call, 803-973-0100, and let Vertex PT Specialists bring recovery to you.
Shop Road near South Beltline Boulevard. Also an accident, I-26 eastbound at exit 110. And I-26 eastbound at I-126, a disabled vehicle is on the left shoulder, but not completely out of the roadway. So be mindful of that and kind of try to stay clear of that vehicle until they can get it completely off the road. Also an accident, I-20 eastbound between Highway 378 and Bush River Road. And yeah, we'll see some rain off and on throughout the rest of the day. Should be tapering as we get into late afternoon, early evening. Looking for a high today of about 88, 92 tomorrow with some afternoon storms. Afternoon storms continue, the possibility on Saturday, 89 for the high. Right now, a little light rain and 78.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We're getting you ready for the 2025 Gamecock football season. And I think I know what gets people ready for football. Bulletin board material. But not just bulletin board material. We have the bulletin board material. Because in an offseason full of lists and rankings, Lenora Sellers has been on a good majority of them when it comes to ranking quarterbacks, not just in the SEC. We're in a position here in South Carolina where we're talking about the quarterback of the South Carolina Gamecocks being mentioned by some as the best quarterback in all of college football, but not at the Athletic. The Athletic college football staff.
And I like the Athletic, too.
I love the Athletic. I don't like subscribing to things like by paying for it. Like, there are some really good newspapers. I love reading their stuff, but I'll read it if it's free, but I don't actually want to put the financial investment into doing it. But I have been a subscriber to The Athletic ever since it came out.
Yeah, this is one that I do support and I do use. And that's another thing about our subscriptions. You have so many of them that you don't use. I use this one.
I use this
and I'm
on a daily basis.
I'm not mad when it shows up in my inbox.
Yeah,
I'm like,
on a daily basis.
Cool.
And
nice.
I know I'm lucky enough to have worked with some people that write for The Athletic, and I like to support their work. But maybe you think people around here might have some beef with their list. So they have their All-America team, preseason All-America teams for The Athletic, just first and second teams. And, of course, on All-American teams, you only get one quarterback for each team. And the first team quarterback for The Athletic, Clemson's Cade Klubnik.
Oh, no.
That's certainly a villain
in
Gamecock lore. Any quarterback for Clemson is a Gamecock villain by nature of the rivalry. But maybe he's on the second team, right? Incorrect. The second team All-American quarterback, LSU's Garrett Nussmeier.
Oh, no.
Arguably the number one individual as a player that is a Gamecock villain. We've already had this discussion about the villains for the 2025 South Carolina Gamecocks, and I think for me, in terms of just players, Garrett Nussmeier, public enemy number one, given the flop heard around the world and the opportunity that presents itself this October when you go to Baton Rouge. Oh, yeah. And Nussmeier and Sellers are commonly discussed as the two best quarterbacks in the SEC. So there is a little bit of a split amongst people that evaluate the sport for a living. So that's not just that Lenoris was maybe left off the list of All-Americans, but it's who he got left off for that I think is going to make Gamecock fans
double whammy.
Put this one in the memory bank. They're going to jot this down, remember this for later in the season, because Lenore Sellers will get to face off against both of these gentlemen once toe meets leather.
This is a great example for Lenore, so that when we're telling his story in the future and they're doing the story of the 2025 Gamecocks, how they won the national championship, he can sit and look dead into the camera and say, "No one believed in me."
Now he can say it. He's got something he can use.
He can say it. He can say, there were just so many haters and doubters out there that they never believed that I was going to do this. They left me off of list.
You say list. They left me off of list. How many lists? List.
They left me off a list. They put other guys in front of me. This was the motivation I needed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Lenoris operates like that, but I know some guys would.
Kirby Smart would.
Kirby Smart would definitely be taking this.
Kirby Smart would have this printed out and framed and have it put in Lenoris Sellers' locker.
Again,
Texted to him like 3 times a day.
Yes, again, texted to random
sending
people.
him the link.
Texted to people around the program like, hey, listen, this is what they think about you. I don't know if Lenoris operates like that, but if he does, something to put in your back pocket.
Yeah,
Something to take with you. I don't know if that's how he rolls, but if he does, it's something to keep with you.
That's the whole hope of this is that maybe LeSnub hits him a little bit, and it's an extra motivating factor. And I personally don't think it's an egregious omission. Because I think Klubnik and Nussmeier are both really good quarterbacks. And I think if you are going to put a list of no ranking of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football between Lenoris, Klubnik, and Nussmeier, I think those are 3 of the 5. And I think you can have them in any interchangeable order, and I can't rationally disagree too much. I can maybe disagree with the order. I do think Lenoris Sellers is a better all-around quarterback than Garrett Nussmeier right now. And I think if you take those last 6 weeks of the season and account for trajectory, I think it is reasonable to believe that Lenoris makes that jump to being a better intermediate range passer. We know Lenoris has got a cannon of an arm and is really accurate in the short game. But if he improves some of those things and he takes care of the ball better, really a lot of the grade, if you just look at grades or anything like that, certain metrics, it does take into account the early season turnovers. And it accounts for that early season learning curve that Lenoris really had to go through, like that game against Old Dominion and that game against Ole Miss where he came back where he wasn't 100%, really wasn't close to 100%. But if you just take those last 6 weeks of the season, there's maybe not a quarterback in college football that played better than he did. So really, when it comes, I'm not here to completely trash the list.
No, it's a good list.
But I think it's a good list. But I do think it is an interesting motivating factor, especially for Gamecock fans, to see exactly who he was left off for.
Well, here's a different question. If Cade is a first-team All-American, that presumes that Clemson went to the CFP, correct?
Yep.
And not only did they go in the CFP, they might have made some noise.
They might have a bye. I think that would be if at the end of the season, Cade Klubnik is the first-team All-American quarterback, I think it would be reasonable to assume that not only did they make the college football playoff, but they didn't have to play in that first-round game, so they're automatically going to the quarterfinal.
Do you make the same assumption with Garrett Nussmeier being here also on the second team?
Ooh, only because if I use history as my guide, Jaden Daniels won a Heisman, and that defense gave up points to anybody and everybody. That defense was rated E for everyone, and everybody scored on them. So I think voters were willingly able to look past that because Jaden Daniels does not play defense. I can see a scenario in which Garrett Nussmeier is a first or second team All-American without his team getting into the college football playoff because LSU could be LSUing, and that's just not fixing that defense despite investing a ton of money into it.
Of note on the rest of the team, Dylan Stewart did make the second team.
He did.
Was named. I won't say make because they didn't perform for this.
Right. They were just named.
So they were named to the second team, which, okay, so if we're saying Dylan Stewart is named to second team All-American, what do you think that means for his season?
I mean, I have a really good feeling he will be first team because he is that good. He is just that transcendent.
So that's putting you in double-digit sack numbers?
Yep. I think double-digit sack numbers. I think if he's second team, he probably doesn't have double-digit sack numbers, but I think the people who vote on these things realize the impact he has. Because, look, there's a real-life scenario here where Dylan Stewart maybe only gets 7-8 sacks. I say only. That's a really good season, but only 7 or 8 sacks because he's going to attract so much attention because he attracted that much attention as a true freshman. And I've used this example ad nauseum, but it's so true. Go back and watch that Alabama game where Kyle Kennard had a bananas first half and watch the side of the ball Kyle Kennard's on, or the line of scrimmage that Kyle Kennard's on, watch the side of that Dylan Stewart's on, and look at how Alabama lines up their offensive line. They throw a tight end there. They have a running back in max protection who's on the right hip of Jalen Milroe, which is the side that Dylan Stewart's on. So they're chipping with the tight end. Jam Miller is coming up, or Justice Haynes, whichever running back it was, is going in there to also put hands on Dylan Stewart. There was that one play, and I believe it was the safety, where Dylan Stewart received hands from 3 different players. Kyle Kennard had a one-on-one. Now, granted, he won a one-on-one against Caden Proctor, which nobody does, which, again, the freakishness of Kyle Kennard and the freakishness of that defense, that if you have to put all this attention on one player, you still have to have one-on-ones with Kyle Kennard. And Kyle won that one-on-one. Flushed Jalen Milroe out of the pocket, made Jalen Milroe make a mistake in the end zone, and that results in 2 points, Coach. So that's going to be the impact. Dylan Stewart isn't going to get credited with that safety. He wasn't credited with a sack or a tackle, but his impact and just his reputation is going to be good enough to create those types of advantages.
And when he does, those other players that were looking to step up are going to have to step up.
Yep.
Desmond Yu,
Brian Thomas Jr.
Whoever's out there at that edge position is going to need to be ready to step up when he does attract all that attention and win the one-on-ones like Kyle did. I guess because what's interesting is, in my mind, the narrative was, Dylan benefited from having Kyle. But you're painting it, and I think with that argument that you just made to the juror just now, maybe Kyle benefited from having Dylan also as much or more.
Yeah, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm saying Kyle Kennard's overrated or anything, but with Kyle Kennard's season, statistically, you would think he'd been drafted a little higher than maybe the 4th round. I think some teams are like, oh, he's really, really good, but it helps having that guy right there too, which is why I was really hoping the Chargers still could keep Joey Bosa around, and that way you could pair him with Bosa, and a guy who's got the reputation of being one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL is paired with somebody like Kyle Kennard, who excels at winning one-on-ones. Then it would be the ultimate situation, because it's a situation that mirrored what he had in college, and then that could set him up for really good long-term NFL success. But if you go back and just go through the progression of how teams handled Dylan Stewart throughout the season, Dylan Stewart embarrassed Kentucky. That Kentucky game was when I started seeing pro scouts or people that evaluate NFL talent share clips of the All-22 with what Dylan Stewart was doing to the University of Kentucky, and it's assault in a multitude of states. Absolutely abused that offensive line, got to Brock Vandegrift, made life hell for him, and that's why they turned the ball over left and right, was because Dylan Stewart was constantly getting into the backfield. You could not have a one-on-one because he was going to win it. And then you saw the rest of the season, the amount of attention that teams had on Dylan Stewart certainly changed. I firmly believe that SEC coaches, and I have read some things within the Athletic or anonymous coaches that say, that's the guy that keeps you up at night, because you're not going to let that guy beat you, because if you just go one-on-one with him, your quarterback is in jail for 4 quarters.
So does Dylan get a chance to be like, second team? That's what they think about?
I hope so.
He can say that?
He seems like he would.
I feel a little bit more confident that that's something that Dylan would definitely be taking to bed with him at night, or keeping him up from going to sleep, or waking him up to go train, or whatever, however you want to phrase that, because the first team defensive end, TJ Parker from Clemson.
See? There are a couple of Carolina players snubbed by Clemson players. I was listening, one of my favorite college football shows, Split Zone Duo, listening to their ACC preview yesterday, and my man Alex Kirshner said TJ Parker may be the best edge rusher in America.
Ooh.
And I was like, Dylan Stewart, take note. Take note. Also, that just goes to show the amount of talent that's going to be on the field at Williams-Brice Stadium in the last week of the season.
For sure.
There's a lot of it. And Carolina bringing a lot to the table, too, which is what's going to make that so much fun. But there's a few things there that could be used as a little bit of fuel. And if we do want to talk about players that are going to be maybe postseason All-Americans, I still believe Jalen Kilgore can work himself into that discussion.
Oh, he's definitely looking like, okay.
Okay. I only led the SEC in interceptions last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm only coming back.
What's the Cam Newton mean?
Yeah,
What's the helmet on?
He does, makes the face and nods his head a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, puts the helmet on.
Yep.
Because there is a scenario here where I can see 3 Carolina players being All-Americans, first or second team by the end of the year. And that's Lenoris, Dylan Stewart, Jalen Kilgore. Now, if Nick Harbor pops, or a couple of other guys pop and have great seasons, then that is all well and good. But right now, you're in a really good position where you could get 3, because you have guys that are that good at their positions. And if they're maybe being snubbed for Clemson players, or maybe the one player whose flop helped change the course of a game, then maybe that changes some things. But I found that to be pretty interesting. We're not just talking Carolina's camp here on the early game, but there is maybe the most interesting camp battle in all of college football. that just isn't maybe talked about enough nationally. And does this quarterback uncertainty make this team the ultimate candidate to be the latest top 10 team in the preseason that finishes the season unranked? We'll tell you who that is when the early game continues.
Pressing in for the good folks at Integrated Media. Listen, we've been trying to tell you that you need to get your setup ready. And now here we are, 4 hours, 55 minutes, and 37 seconds to the season.
But who's counting?
But nobody's counting. So don't rush, but don't wait to get your setup ready with Integrated Media. You need to have your outdoor setup ready so you can have all your viewing options like we talked about yesterday. You want to stream things on ESPN, SEC Plus, ABC, CBS, Paramount Plus? Well, you need to have the folks for Integrated Media to help you out. You can get Samsung's Ceres TVs that are waterproof so you can watch anytime. Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. So make sure you call the good folks at integratedmedia.com to get you set up. Again, that's integratedmedia.com.
I-20 eastbound between 378 and Bush River Road, continuing to work that earlier tie-up. I-26 eastbound at I-126 on the left shoulder, there is a disabled vehicle. Last we heard, it's not quite out of the way, so just be aware of that. There could be a slowdown there. I-26 eastbound at Sunset Boulevard. I-77 northbound at Bluff Road. Shop near South Beltline Boulevard, the other accident to be aware of. 88 today, and we'll see some rain and thunder possible throughout the day, tapering off early this evening. Like I said, 88 for the high. 92 tomorrow with some PM storms. And 78, some light rain in some parts of the Midlands.
In only about, 8 days? Is my math correct? It is. Not oftentimes, but it is today. In 8 days, it'll be the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Kreger Showrooms, the artist formerly known as the Nest and the Vista. Friday, August 22nd at Charwood Golf Club. Tee time, 9 a.m. Registration starts at 7:30 a.m. But before you can register and play, you got to pay for a team, $400 a team. So you want to do that? Call 803-755-2000 and press number 2 to sign up. And, of course, you want to do this because there's food involved, too. Onion sausage for breakfast, mimosa bar from Saki's Wine and Spirits, and Firehouse Subs for lunch. We have prizes and, of course, the golf gun. Can't say it too loudly around here because it's back. And I've already talked it up to being scarier in my mind than maybe it is in practice. Something like that sounds sinister and scary. But is it more sinister and scary than being a preseason top 10 team in college football and not making the postseason? AP top 25. That's scary.
We say there's a precedent for this.
Yes, there's a really good precedent of this. To be exact, in the college football playoff era, we discussed this yesterday, but 20 teams since 2014 were preseason top 10 and did not finish the season ranked, including the last time the South Carolina Gamecocks appeared in the preseason top 25. They were number 9. That was 2014. They finished the season unranked at 7-6. Last year, there were 2 teams, Florida State and Michigan. And then in 4 of those 11 seasons, 3 teams that were in the preseason top 10 did not finish the season ranked. And we picked our teams yesterday for who we think it might be. I picked on Miami and leaned LSU a little bit if I had to pick a second. But maybe there's a team that everybody's really high on that I wasn't skeptical enough about. Because I love the coach. I love what they are at the line of scrimmage. I love what they did last year. Defensively, they're still going to be one of the best teams in college football despite losing some key players. But Notre Dame's got a quarterback question too, in a legitimate quarterback battle. And I think for a long time, people kind of just penciled in C.J. Carr as the starter. But according to The Athletic, Pete Sampson, who has been covering Notre Dame for a long time, is their Notre Dame beat writer, claims that it's very still much a quarterback battle. There is no clear number 1 in camp. And he had a really good story on The Athletic yesterday about what it's like to debut as Notre Dame's quarterback, starting quarterback. Because only twice in history did a Notre Dame quarterback make their college football starting debut at the season opener. The first one, Demetrius Jones. Do you remember Demetrius Jones?
I don't.
Because he only played one half. He was benched before halftime in their opener against Georgia Tech in 2007.
2007, all right.
The other one, Everett Golson.
Shout out to Myrtle Beach.
Yep.
Florida State. Oh, well, eventually
to Florida State.
But
yes.
shout out to Myrtle Beach. A local, talk about legend.
Everett Golson.
He could go, for sure.
Everett Golson was really good. Yeah. He was the second quarterback to do that. He did that against Navy in 2012, and he may or may not have taken Notre Dame to a national championship game.
Correct.
A pretty special season. There's a real mixed bag here. Golson had a really good year, went on to have a good career. Demetrius Jones did not start another game at Notre Dame, if I believe. He was benched before halftime, and then 2007 ended up being a real wash for him. So there's not a lot of precedent for that iconic program to have somebody make their first career start in a season opener. That will be the case no matter what. C.J. Carr, true freshman. Kenny Minchey has been at Notre Dame the last couple of years, but has waited his turn. That was another guy I covered in high school, went to Pope John Paul in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So when I was covering high school football out there, I saw him. I don't want to say a lot because he was hurt a lot his last year playing in high school, but he was a highly touted recruit and apparently is giving C.J. Carr a real run for his money. Is this something that I just didn't consider enough when picking a team that would be in the preseason top 10 to not finish the season ranked?
This was interesting to me because I really had not been aware of this till I read the article and looked into the situation a little bit more. But I did not get clarity on what the question we're trying to answer here is. You know the old adage, you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one, that kind of conversation. I'm not sure if there's this idea we just have two dudes that are so great at the top that we just can't pick between the two, or is it that both of them are okay and we don't know which okay we want to go with?
Yeah.
Because I think
it's two different things. Those are two completely different situations.
And I guess I'm asking you, did you get any sense of direction of which side of the conversation we're having here?
From what I've read, they like both. They really like both.
Mm-hmm.
And Minchie was one of those guys, they flipped. He was originally committed his senior year in high school to play at Pitt. And they flipped him at the very last minute to go to Notre Dame. And he stayed. And I think they've given him some financial incentive to stay because they do believe in his ability. C.J. Carr, also another highly touted prospect coming out of high school. So they really believe in both guys. And I feel like it's one of those things where they are taking their chance on just maybe making one of them mad and one of them leaving, but you'd rather have two good options. But I think everybody, I know Phil Steele, one of them, kind of projected C.J. Carr to be the starter. Everybody else, when they talk, every other season preview I've read, when they talk about Notre Dame, kind of assumes C.J. Carr is going to be the starter. But how much does a quarterback battle like this, whether it be either situation, they're both really good or they're both having to choose between average, will that change a team that has national title aspirations? And can you trust a team like that to have national title aspirations despite having that question mark over who starts to begin the season? Because there are other quarterback battles. I don't truly believe that Ty Simpson was threatened for the Alabama job. I know they like the other guys on that roster.
But you're saying those weren't actual quarterback battles.
But I had a feeling that it was going to be Ty Simpson by virtue of, if not now, when is it for that young man? And for other quarterback battles like at Ohio State, I don't know if Julian Sayin is truly challenged to be the starting quarterback at Ohio State. I think that one's kind of written in pencil, and everybody feels really good about it, and ultimately it'll be erased solely so you can write it in pen. This one I thought was kind of similar, but the more you read on it, the more they feel comfortable with either guy. Their first game's at Miami. That's also on Sunday. That's going to be on TV right after South Carolina, Virginia Tech, which I found it really interesting. So when you watch Carolina, Virginia Tech, and if Carolina wins and you still feel like watching more college football because you're in a great college football mood, that's a really good game and an intriguing game to watch. It's a top 10 matchup. But Notre Dame's going to be starting one player who has never started a game in their career at quarterback, and we don't know who that is yet. And it could be either one of these guys.
So as a coach, you have to really be strong in your convictions about this decision that you make. Mm-hmm. Because when the guy that you pick that went through the battle, when he goes out there on the second drive of the game and he throws a pick, it's going to be not only in your mind, but in the OC's mind, some of the players' mind, like, man, other dude was really good too. And then when he goes out there, and he throws another pick, are you firm enough in your decision to stay with this guy? And that's so once the coach makes a decision on a position battle, the decision is made. But now you have to ride that decision until it does not work anymore. And that's going to be the ongoing tension that's happening with the team as long as whoever gets picked. Now, if you come out the gate and perform, it's all good.
No one's going to question anything.
Right.
If Carr or Minchie come out there and they light the world on fire, right? No one's going to say a word about it because then you clearly made the right decision. But there's also a scenario in which you still feel good enough about both of them that you want to maybe see both of them in live action. But is that something you do against a top 10 team on the road to start your season? I don't know if there's space for that.
And then you open up a whole nother thing. Once I picked him, but he's playing well. Now the fans are kind of clamoring for both guys, and I don't envy Marcus Freeman for having having to make this decision. Now it's good to have 2 instead of 0, which some coaches are dealing with also. But I'm sure he felt a lot better having Riley Leonard last year.
Where it was not a question. It was not a question at all. The hands-down starter that you had written in pen since you got him to commit to your school when he entered the transfer portal, a lot easier decision to make. But I found that to be maybe one of the most intriguing college football storylines in week 1 that just hasn't been talked about enough yet. We're talking about Texas, Ohio State a lot. We're talking about Clemson, LSU a lot. And obviously here, Carolina, Virginia Tech is going to be a really fun game. But there's so much more intrigue than that Notre Dame-Miami game just being a top 10 game. That's an intriguing story. But the dumbest story in college football has hit this week. And now, since the player involved has spoken about it, we probably should too. We'll tell you what that is when the early game continues.
You know, they say perfection is a journey. Well, our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. Decided that we were going to redo a couple of bathrooms and needed countertops for them. So what did we do? We asked around and we reached out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and learned from them that they really understand that any kitchen or bath project can be a significant expense. And that's why they really make it a priority to deliver the most affordable and high quality granite, marble, and quartz. And again, delivering the highest quality in customer service as well. We toured their showroom, which is absolutely fabulous. I've gone back recently and checked out their outdoor showroom. We'll be telling you more about that soon, but they can help you with hardscapes and all of that as well. But if you're looking for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. Check them out online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Colonial Drive at Hardin Street, there is a report of an accident. Still working I-20 eastbound between Highway 378 and Bush River Road. I-26 eastbound at Sunset Boulevard, also an accident. I-77 northbound at Bluff Road and Shop Road near South Beltline Boulevard. As we mentioned, there is some rain in the forecast today. It'll be off and on, but it should be tapering off really by late afternoon, early evening. 88 for the high tomorrow, maybe an afternoon storm or two. 92 will be our high. And on Saturday, much of the same afternoon storms possible. 89 should be sunny for Sunday with a high of 91. 77 right now on the early game.
Today's a big day, a really big day, because the Irmo Little League team playing in the Little League World Series, and tonight, really today, starting at 3, if you go over to Irmo, to Carolina Wings, specifically at the address of 1000 Marina Road in Irmo, if you've never been to Carolina Wings in Ballantyne, highly recommend it. I will be there today. Leo Baldwin, LB from B1067, going to be out there. We're having a watch party to watch the Irmo Little League World Series team win and advance. We're speaking this into existence, to win and advance in the Little League World Series. So come out to Carolina Wings and Irmo. Watch the game with us. We're giving away stuff. They have great value and gift cards. Of course, fantastic, delicious food. I'm excited to try some of these wings. Great service, a lively atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of people there. We're very excited. I'll be calling in during the post-game show today to give updates twice an hour as well. So if you want to watch the Little League World Series, the team from Irmo go win and advance, because they will, come join us in Carolina Wings in Irmo or on Ballantyne today. That's a big story. Unfortunately, there is a gambling story that has occurred in college football, and I will say, if you gamble on that game of the Little League World Series, the number won't just call you. The authorities should call you as well. But John Mateer, quarterback for Oklahoma, had some interesting Venmo transactions. Now, I waited a couple of days for us to talk about that because I wanted it to be acknowledged by the people involved first, because with today's technology and artificial intelligence, you can make any type of screen grab anything. And I don't want to run with something unless we are for sure that it is actually a story. But John Mateer has talked about it. He said it was not about gambling, that those were inside jokes on Venmo transactions. What makes this the dumbest story in college football? Well, the name of his Venmo transaction was sports gambling. Yeah. And one of them specifically was sports gambling, in parentheses, USC versus UCLA.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to be accused of sports gambling, Preston Thorne, and my Venmo is public and people can see exactly what it is that I'm paying for, I'm not putting sports gambling on there.
Yeah.
That's like getting a getaway car for a bank robbery and putting in spray paint on the side of it, bank robbery getaway car. It's almost too stupid to believe. It is almost too stupid of a story to be real. But those were real Venmo transactions. And if you have an inside joke with your buddies on something that would be illegal in what it is you do, I don't suggest mentioning it publicly or even joking about it publicly.
What a 2025 story.
The most 2025 story.
I mean, if you're going to tell this story to somebody, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, probably don't even have to go that far. First, you're like, what's Venmo?
Right. Yeah. Venmo transaction. What is it you kids are into?
Yeah. What is this going on? And then you have to explain the whole process. Yeah. It's a thing where you transfer money, but it's peer to peer. Blah blah blah. It's secure. You kind of. But on this secure transactions, we list publicly a public ledger of our spending. John Mulaney has the joke about what Venmo is actually used for and who actually uses Venmo. Along the lines. Vices, I should say,
yes.
Right? Sports gambling and other vices. But listing them publicly, it's just a bad idea. Then with all of the gambling things that have been coming along as we've fully embraced the world of gambling in sports. So that's another part of it that makes this so 2025. And then you have a quarterback who has now found himself not just in some outpost on college football in Washington State where nobody really cares. You're in the SEC now, brother.
Right. Opposing fans, rival fans will look at stuff like that.
We're looking for things. And so apparently somebody went through and did some big J journalism and found this. How? I don't know. But here we are. And now he's acknowledged that that's not what it was, but there was some smoke to the fire. I
Yes. And I am not maybe in the greatest position to give life advice to anybody, but John, if you're going to have inside jokes on your Venmo, they need to be hilarious. But if it's something that you are doing that, even if it's something, if you just paid this person to go pick you up a Mountain Dew from 7-Eleven, I highly suggest you don't put something that actually is incriminating.
But see, here's the thing this is where I guess my old man shaking. This is why I've never really quite understood Venmo, the ideas, because why is this available to just everybody at any time?
I hate that.
Anywhere. Like, why? Can I switch this off?
You can make it private.
Can you make it private? Well, why doesn't everybody just make it private? What's the utility for Venmo being public? I don't get that.
I don't want people to know my business, that I paid so-and-so for a haircut, or I bought a cake from somebody, or like, what? Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't need people knowing this. I don't need everybody knowing this. I don't even want my people that I know knowing this. Let alone strangers.
I never once have ever put what I'm actually paying for my Venmo for that reason. I don't want people knowing.
Yeah, it makes
It's none of your business.
Yeah, and especially if I told somebody, well, that's too expensive, and then they see me paying something else, or, like, I'm not saying I've done that, but... it's kind of an icky situation.
$30 for a sandwich, Preston. What are you doing?
Right.
How hungry were you?
Sometimes I'll make it if I'm Venmoing a friend or whatever. I'm like buying out the whole bar, and that way, because what Venmo won't tell you is how much you're paying. It will just say what you said the payment was.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes some people think that I'm a high roller.
Okay.
But I'll do something like my eventual world takeover. Don't take it seriously.
I thought it did show the amount.
It'll show it to you if you received it or if you sent it.
Okay.
But it won't tell you.
Ledger.
Yes. But it won't tell you if you're not involved. If you're a third party, it will not tell you how much.
So people of John Mateer's generation, because this might be a generational thing, but I think everybody has some sort of peer-to-peer sharing. Is Venmo the preferred money exchange? Venmo,
it is
Cash
App,
Zelle. Are those, what do you, if you had to rank them, start, bench, cut for somebody of John Mateer's ilk, what would they be?
Oh, easy. Start Venmo, bench Cash App, drop Zelle.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's at least that is how it is in the circles I run in.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, how that goes.
And PayPal went bye-bye.
PayPal's all out.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think I use PayPal.
So start Venmo,
right now.
bench Cash App, cut Zelle.
Yeah,
because Zelle's too official, right?
It feels
it's
too
got to be like
official.
really connected to a bank account.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Nobody wants to do all that.
Yeah.
I like feeling alive a little bit.
Yeah,
but not so alive that I'm going to let people see what my transactions are.
Especially if I'm doing anything nefarious.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I have paid for anything nefarious on Venmo, but if I were to, I'm not saying what it is I'm doing on there.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. So silly.
Like if I'm sports gambling on there and I'm sending money to like a bookie or somebody who is in a state that can place a wager for me, that Venmo transaction might read a Mountain Dew from 7-Eleven when it's really me having $10 on the spread on Miami, Ohio, Toledo.
Great.
Or the Super Bowl or anything like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not actually putting sports gambling, Miami, Ohio, Toledo, plus 5.5.
Be more
not
careful.
doing that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's like using social media and saying, I probably am going to make a withdrawal with the help of an incendiary device and a hold-up note. Like you go ahead and just telling that. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing.
Just giving it away.
Yeah,
what you're doing something you can't do, but telling everybody publicly.
Yeah.
Not the best way to keep a secret.
No, bless him.
Social media, not a friend of secrets.
No,
At all.
At all.
No.
Yeah. John Mateer, not impressed in anybody. But there are some things that are impressed in Preston and also depressed in him as well. And we'll find out what those are next on the early game. Your favorite team star quarterback having Venmo transactions that may or may not be a little incriminating to Preston. But there are some things that might be in Preston when it comes to the world of football. And that's why it's an easy segue to get into in Preston or to Preston for today. And I can't think of a better way to start this off than asking in Preston or DePreston. Michael Penix, the quarterback for his new favorite football team, the Atlanta Falcons, getting in a scrap in a joint practice with the Tennessee Titans of all teams.
I know a lot of you out there, first off, rise up. Got
to start with that.
I know a lot of you out there, you want your quarterbacks to be team players. You want your quarterbacks. Remember we started this week off talking about the idea of if, and I said quarterbacks have to be able to walk that line of being above the fray, but also being one of the guys. This is DePreston, and I seriously considered revoking my fanhood if the worst case scenario from this could have played out.
But one of the things that you picked, if it played out to where he got hurt, you did pick an 8 on the backup quarterback.
But this could have been the most Falconist of Falcon things to ever play out. You're really familiar with the story. Joint practices, camp fight. It happens every single day in the NFL. Cool. What you don't hear is you don't ever hear about the starting quarterback, the franchise, the moneymaker. Our hopes and dreams being involved in the middle of these fights. I was seeing tweets come up. Michael Penix was involved in the fight. Okay, what's involved mean? Next tweet. Michael Penix is in the middle of the fight. Okay, what is in the middle mean? Michael Penix is on the bottom of the pile in a fight.
Don't like that.
I don't like that's not a thing that we can afford to have as Falcon Nation. Rise up. I don't want that. I appreciate you, Michael Penix Jr., for wanting to be with your teammates. But, hey, teammates, get him out of there. When he wants to get in the fight, you send the other 80 guys that are about to get cut or the backup defensive tackle or whoever else.
Enforcers.
Get some dudes, but get the money out of this situation. You do not get involved in this. You go home. Mm-hmm. You let us take care of this. We appreciate you, but this is not for you.
This is a scrap. You don't want no part of this, Dewey.
The worst case scenario could have very easily played out. He throws a single punch, breaks his throwing hand, and now he's out for 8 to 10 weeks. It could easily happen for a camp fight.
It certainly could have. There are a lot of things that could have gone wrong. Or one of the big ones step on you in this scrap and something happened to your foot. Because when all these linemen are 350-plus pounds, that's going to hurt. That will break some bones. That will keep you out of games.
Michael Penix Jr., I appreciate your willingness to go into there and be with your team. I get it, but that's not what we don't need that from you. Step back, let them fight, and then you come around and you be the spokesperson for them. He did a great job representing himself. He said he kind of got out of character a little bit. It's not what he. Don't do that again, sir, because I'm telling you, Elijah, I would have been in a conundrum because I may have been checking my warranty on my fanhood. If something would have happened. Do you have a right?
Like, do you have some type of what's the return policy?
I feel like there might be a 30-day policy at least. If the starting quarterback gets hurt in a camp fight, I gotta be able to return that, right?
I think you do. That's fair.
I think the insurance policy was you picking an 8 on the backup quarterback tier, just in case something happened. I mean, you pick 8 just in case something like this happened. The Falcons were part of that tier too. I think that might have been part of the insurance policy. That one might have to be a show vote, not just those of us on the show.
Yeah, it might have been. We might have to put that in jury.
Yeah, okay. We might have to have a jury for that.
But all's well that ends well. Rise up, and we'll move forward.
There's already been some negative recruiting already on the Firehouse Subs text line. It says, Preston, come on over to a disciplined and winning team. Fly, Eagles, fly. Which proves that the recruitment doesn't end at the commitment ceremony.
And again, you're speaking to my football heart because those are two things I really enjoy in football.
Negative recruiting?
No, discipline and winning.
Discipline and winning.
Nothing says discipline winning like your starting quarterback being in the middle of a camp fight. That does not scream discipline and or winning.
Preston, you've heard of the phrase, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one, which I only agree with 60% of the way. Mm-hmm. But Justin Hawkinson from On3, covers Auburn, tweets, since we spoke with Derek Nix and Ken Austin yesterday, just to reiterate, this is Auburn, their football team. Nix handles first down strategy and play calling. Austin handles third down strategy play calling. And as Nick said of Hugh Freeze, head coach has the authority to overrule anything we say or do. How often does Freeze overrule? Quote, it depends on how the game is going, but he's highly involved. To me, he's an outstanding play caller, and I've learned everything from him. So, Impreston or Depreston, Auburn having 3 play callers. 3. If you have 3 play callers, do you not have one?
If you have 3 play callers, you have one, and it's Hugh Freeze.
It's Hugh Freeze, yes. The one with the veto power.
Yes, because he's the one, he hears every call come. He's like, we're not doing that. That's a very tough setup for coaches to gain experience from. Hugh Freeze is the play caller.
Is this just Hugh Freeze's ruse to make people believe that he's being collaborative when really he is just the play caller?
Yeah, this is just a pump and dump scheme to get dudes coordinator titles so they can get more money. But there's one coach, one play caller.
It seems like a really inefficient way to get calls to the line of scrimmage.
I forgot it's third down. You make the call.
No. Oh, there's 5 on the play clock. We don't have that problem in South Carolina, but there are other headlines in practice this week. We'll tell you what those are next in the early game.
Pressing for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. It's a cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. And Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
I-77 northbound of Bluff Road, 2 lanes are blocked. The 2 left lanes are blocked on I-77 northbound of Bluff Road. couple more accidents. Augusta Highway at Kitty Colonial Drive at Hardin, Highway 302 at South Lake Drive, I-26 eastbound there at exit 97. We have an accident there. Also, I-77 northbound at Forest Drive and Broad River Road at Kennerly. And could see some off and on rain showers today. Thunderstorms a possibility, 88 for the high. Afternoon and evening storms tomorrow, 92. It's 77 right now.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we've gotten into a Venmo rabbit hole. Or just any type of online money transaction rabbit hole. And there are a couple of really good texts on the Firehouse Subs text line talking about what you may or may not have labeled for certain things. And maybe how your mischaracterization for certain transactions might actually be worse than what it is you actually paid for. But we're here for the funny stories. We're going to go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines now because Corey has a Cash App story. Now, I assume when we're doing a start bench drop on online money transaction apps, that Cash App might be his starter, or maybe it's not, depending on where this goes. So, Corey, good morning. Welcome to the early game. Excited for what you have to say here.
Morning, gentlemen. Morning. Thank you all for taking the call. This might be a little impressing or depressing here as well. I don't know where we're at in the world with this. But the irony in it is pretty funny because I was watching all of that, unfold on that whole social media thing with, everything coming out and the kid on Venmo and all that. And I'm just laughing, driving down the road, listening to y'all this morning, and I thought back, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I forgot this happened to me. But a couple of years ago, my wife and I, who is a public school teacher, I must add, were at a party. And one of her parents' friends comes up to us and literally tells me, oh, my God, I just have to let you know, you crack me up with your Cash App tags all the time. And I'm like, what is she talking about? I had no idea that my Cash App was public. Meanwhile, here I am. I will literally send my wife, $10, and you have to add a note. Oh, silly me, just trying to be funny. The note is for radio purposes, we'll say fornication or something just insane just to make her laugh. Little did I know I'm out here entertaining my mother-in-law and or her friends.
Oh.
So that is where we are at in the world today, guys.
Oh, I think it accelerated when you mentioned that it's your mother-in-law and friends too. That you had an audience, Corey. You have an audience over what your transactions are.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for the curse is that people see them, and not only do they see them and pops up on their feed, they read them because things pop up on people's feeds all the time. You maybe don't necessarily read everything that shows up on the feed, but the pros is that the stand-up act on Cash App is a real hit with people, and I think I would take that in a heartbeat. So much to the surprise of you that it is seen and read by people, I think I would take a little bit of pride in it making people laugh. At least that's me personally.
That's right. I appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all.
Well, thank you for the call, Corey. Yeah, that's good. Is that Impreston or Depreston for you?
Cash, kids. Not Cash App. Cash. Use cash. You less to worry about. Cash in Preston. Money transactions online, Preston. That's the tough spot. Tough spot to be in on that one, brother.
Yeah, we have a texter on the Firehouse Subs text line that says, I do money laundering investigations for work, and we absolutely look at Venmo descriptions. So would that mean John Mateer is more or less in trouble here?
Yeah, everybody. Corey's like, wait. Hold. Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out
for a second. Let's hear him out.
Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out.
This is all comedy stand-up. I wonder whenever you read, because I remember one like recently. I think I Venmo'd my girlfriend for something that she picked up while she was out and I was at home, and it was like my eventual world takeover. And if that is taken seriously, then there will be people that believe I am way more powerful than I actually am.
It's going in your file.
It's going in the file.
Your cloud file in the sky.
My FBI file.
Yeah, it's there. Don't worry about it.
Serious threat for world takeover. Elijah Campbell. He is spending money on this.
But when his key card doesn't work one morning, we'll know something.
We'll know something's really up.
Yeah, exactly.
See, you'll have your file for taking over the world, but then they'll look at how much time you spent looking up backup quarterbacks in the MAC, and they'd be like, yeah, he's not.
They'd be like, this guy's spent way too much time researching preseason AP top 25 polls over the last decade to really be a threat.
Take him off the list.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Get out. Go.
Take him off the list. He's no problem.
Any federal investigation that involves me where they like subpoena all my internet records would just be so incredibly bored. They would just see so much. Like my tabs on my computer right now, Pro Football Focus, SEC StatCat, and even on my phone too. I have a bad habit just on my phone on my Safari browser of just opening new tabs and forgetting to close old ones. And 90% of them are things involving sports. They would be so dreadfully bored and just amazed that a human being operates this way that they might not actually investigate further because they would have more precedent.
That is such a great rabbit hole of the absolute boring tabs that you have open that would be of no interest to anybody else. Like, you're going to investigate my computer and you're going to find a lot of tabs about patch pockets on shirts and blazers and things like that. It's like, okay. It's like, yeah, there's nothing here. We don't need nothing else here.
Yeah. For me, it is sports, real estate, labral hip tears, things like that. So it's like, that's the kind of boring stuff.
They get too close to entering HIPAA violation mode by just looking at your tabs.
Yeah,
right.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. This dude, so much vintage Ralph Lauren. What is going on with this guy, man? Who is this?
Can we even make any type of conclusion of any nefarious activity? There's just way too much Ralph Lauren on these tabs here.
And then maybe something cooking related.
And then it might be the recipe.
How to cook mushrooms properly.
Yeah, that's true. I did look up last night how to do Alfredo sauce from scratch. So you're right.
Oh.
Correct.
Let me know if you perfect that.
It was okay. It wasn't. It's all right. Though.
Okay.
That's the next level stuff right there. Is whenever you master that, then you've got next level.
We're talking about mastering things, the basics.
Yeah.
No turnovers for Carolina football in the first scrimmage. That's a basic that you have to get mastered before you advance up.
Mm-hmm. Would you say Nick Harbor has mastered the basics of playing the wide receiver position after having a good 6 weeks to end the year last year?
I think that's what we need to see.
Yeah, I think
that's what we need to see.
That's what I think we saw last year from him, was an improvement in a lot of those basic things like route running, like the Missouri touchdown. Runs a great route, gets himself open down the sideline. Touchdown. With plenty of separation. The Alabama touchdown that late in the game that got them back into it. It's almost like he posted up, that corner, made a play where he catches the ball, puts himself in a position where only he can catch the ball, gets a foot in. So there's work on, there's a lot of mastery of the footwork still going on there. Well, now he's got a full off season, or has had a full off season, where in the spring he gets to participate in all of the spring practices. He was not doing indoor track, and that's something that a lot of the other fellow receivers really commended him on when talking about it this week. And Shane discussed it as well. This will be on yesterday's cut list, Jen. Cut 12. Shane talked about the decision for Nick to skip track in the spring and what that's done for him so far that we're getting closer to the season.
Yeah, he's. I'm glad Mazio said that. I'm really proud of Nick. He shared a lot of that with some of the players the other night, and it's pretty powerful listening to him. But he did. I mean, people think, Nick Harbor just gave up track to run football. Like, that's an easy decision to make. That's not an easy decision to make when you talk about a guy that had the real opportunity to potentially run in the Olympics last summer. And less than a year later, he decides to give up track. He's not just your everyday, I'm going to go run on the track team and have a good college career. Like, he could have run in the Olympics. And to give that up, to solely focus on football, that's hard to give up one of those loves. And what I've seen is him give up that love and then pour all that energy and emotion and just pour it into football. And that's what he's done with his work ethic, just on and off the field. He's improved so much. He works so hard, and he's got a great mindset about the way that he goes about his business. He's having fun out there. You can see it, just plays he makes, special teams. He's another one, you know, to watch him cover kicks as well. So he's a big guy that can run, as you guys know, and he's worked really, really hard, and proud of him, because that's not an easy decision to make.
It was not an easy decision for him to make, because I think everybody that has been covering or following this team for the last couple of years know exactly what goals that Nick Harbor has set for himself when it comes to running track. So missing the entire spring to just focus on football does show a level of serious commitment to mastering the craft of being a wide receiver. And that just leads me to this question right here. What is left for Nick Harbor to have to do to be able to make that jump to being not just a reliable receiver within this offense, but to utilizing the physical tools he has and being one of the best pass catchers in the league?
Yeah, and this is, we have to remind everybody that when he was recruiting as a raw athlete. He played defensive end in high school. He never actually played wide receiver, so he's learning essentially from zero to where he is now. And there's a lot of nuance and technique that comes with playing wide receiver that he's getting the hang of now. And so once he gets past the physicality of that, because he had to get used to that. So that takes a little bit of extra time, because, believe it or not, the same things you need to be able to run fast, far on track are not the same things that you need for football.
Track speed, football speed, two different things.
Totally different. So he had to figure those things out. And it just and then last year, remember, he said he couldn't see. He had to get contacts because he couldn't see the ball coming at him. So
that's kind of important.
Now he has contacts, he can see the ball. It makes catching a lot easier. All of those things added up, I think, equate to maybe Nick being that guy as a potential breakout for this year coming up.
Certainly, because you have a lot of elements that kind of get put into this equation, right? You have the learning curve year, which before the 2023 season started, when I went to the player media availability, I remember when I was interviewing Nick Harbor, and I remember asking him, like, what fans should expect. He goes, I just hope they're patient. I'm learning this position. Like, he was incredibly self-aware about what he needed to do just to be able to master the specifics of that position. And he was very upfront with, there's a lot of things I got to learn. There's a lot of things that I have to be able to do to be able to make myself just a playable player in this offense. And then you saw him take a learning year. And then you saw him build upon that learning year last year and really be a weapon in the last 6 weeks of the year. When you saw the offense really mature, you saw Lenoris mature as a passer. You saw a lot of guys become more involved in the offense that maybe were not as involved or productive in those first 6 weeks. So you have the combination of the slow burn of getting him acclimated to playing wide receiver, then being good at wide receiver. Now can you get him to be great at wide receiver? And I think now we're at the point where he can really convince a lot of people that he is a legitimate football weapon, right? Not just an athletic freak of nature that Bruce Feldman will get to write about every August, but as somebody who is legitimately a playmaker on the football field because he's been able to learn, apply, and then be able to put more time into the craft than he has at any point in his career.
He's becoming a football player instead of just an athlete. And that's a big thing. He's a football player who can do athletic things instead of an athlete who's playing football. And a lot of times that happens with track guys because they have to figure out how to translate from the track to the field or any other sports. And so that is the big thing. And I'm assuming last year they talked about, he's at spring practice and he's taking mental reps. And it's like, nah.
You need real reps.
You need reps.
Physical reps.
Yeah,
yes.
You need to do this thing. You don't need to be thinking about doing this. You need to be doing it. And that's what he's been able to do this spring. And I imagine you're going to see that development coming out of camp this year.
Like NFL teams used to love the guys with track speed, like Darius Hayward-Bay.
Perfect example.
Taken way too high. 7th overall because he ran like, a 4.27 40. And Al Davis was so enamored with it, he used a top 10 pick on him. But Darius Hayward-Bay never really mastered the wide receiver position. He was never that football player that's worth that draft slot. He was just really fast and was taken with that draft slot. The Cincinnati Bengals with Justin Ross, another example. Not Justin Ross. The other guy that played for Washington. I am blanking on the first name right now. Took him way higher than people expected, and it never panned out for him. Right? It never panned out for him because there are just certain things about the position that you need to be able to master. That it doesn't just involve speed. I think with Nick Harbor, there are the steps being taken to where he can finally make that jump. And now we can see it with an entire offseason and maybe see it for an entire season. And if he does, that's when you flirt with 800 to 1,000 receiving yards. And then you make yourself a viable NFL prospect who, outside of guys like Darius Hayward-Bay, are more than just guys running fast when they're wearing essentially underwear at the combine in Indianapolis. And they become really good draft prospects. That's us showing some optimism for Nick Harbor in this offense. But an SEC network analyst is displaying a lot of skepticism when it comes to Carolina's defense. Do we agree with that skepticism? We'll hear from him and give our take when the early game continues. Hey, look, anybody can have a good BOGO deal, but if the quality is not great, then what's the purpose of spending the money for one if the other one's not going to be great either? But with Zero Res and their ability to get your home cleaner than ever before, a special kind of clean, because Zero Res has zero water technology that cleans surfaces without the use of detergents or harsh chemicals, which not only means your carpet stays cleaner longer, it's a safer type of clean too. The no harsh chemicals means pure safety for your family and your pets, and that's the goal when you want to have your house cleaned. So you have the quality, and now you have the deal. Because when you get 2 rooms of carpet cleaned, just mention my name, Elijah Campbell, at 107.5 The Game, you'll get 2 additional rooms for free. So you got the combination of a great deal and great quality. Call them now, 803-262-4020, or you can easily schedule online at ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Continues to be a busy morning. Broad River Road at Kennerly, also I-77 northbound at Forest Drive. I-26 eastbound at Broad River Road, that is. I-26 eastbound at Broad River Road. Highway 302 at South Lake Drive. Colonial Drive at Hardin Street. And Augusta Highway at Kittywake Drive. We are looking for chances for rain throughout the day. It'll kind of continue, then get a little bit better later in the afternoon, early evening. 88 for our high, some afternoon or evening storms tomorrow. 92 for the high. We're sitting at 77 with a mix of clouds and sun on the early game.
Earlier in the last hour, we included a little bit of La Bulletin Board material by way of The Athletic. We have a call right now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines from one Clemson Sean, and I think we can have more La Bulletin Board material. That's how it's been delivered to me. I hope Sean delivers. So, Sean, thanks for waking up with us here on the early game.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations to you for being a part of the first call on your show for my trash talking time. Listen, don't let Cash App and Venmo confuse you with the fact that it is, in the great words of Gamecock Larry, it's trash talking time, baby.
It is.
Gamecock football, 0-12 until proven otherwise. Go Tigers. Love y'all. Love everybody. Go Tigers.
And Clemson Sean delivers.
He delivers. He delivers. It is trash talking season, right? Gamecock Larry, always right in that regard. It is trash talking season. That would count as Gamecock skepticism. I think that would get put into the folder of Gamecock skepticism. Mm-hmm. But it's not just Clemson Sean calling in and being a little skeptical about the Gamecocks this year. Calls coming from outside the house. SEC Network's Ben Watson discussed his skepticism on South Carolina's
It's important to note
defense.
Bulldog Ben.
Bulldog Ben. Oh, should we refer to him as Bulldog Ben?
So we want to make sure we understand
From
this.
here on out, Bulldog Ben.
Just clear.
Well, Bulldog Ben had this to say about his concerns of South Carolina's defense.
Yeah, I think Beamer brought up a good point about the fact that if you play well the year before, you end the season the way South Carolina did, and you have a quarterback coming back, you're probably going to be ranked fairly high. I think they're ranked in the right place, but I'm probably about an 8, honestly, on the worry meter when it comes to this defense. I'm highly worried because I have a lot of faith in Clayton White. I think he's done a tremendous job over the last several years with his defense. This is a ball-hawking defense, lots of turnovers. They're bringing back one of the best defensive players in the country in Dylan Stewart, who had 6 sacks last year, 10 tackles for loss. But look, you lose 8 of your top 11 tacklers from a year before.
Say that again. Say that again for the people to understand.
8 of your top 11 tacklers. We're talking about guys who were drafted. Safety, Emin I mean, all across the defensive
G.J.
line.
Sanders, Tonka Hemingway.
They lost a lot of production, and so football is about next man up 100%, but it's always difficult when you lose that amount of production, especially on a defense, and especially for a team that has leaned on this defense, and they'll do the same thing early in the season.
Bulldog Ben.
Bringing up what everybody here is well aware of, that there's a lot of players that need to step up and a lot of transfer players that need to be ready to play come week 1.
He didn't say anything that we haven't said here.
Yes.
So I feel good about that. So he didn't say anything that we haven't said, and we haven't been like, hey, maybe there's some things that we need to pay attention to. But he said the worry meter of 8.
That's pretty high. That is very high. And I don't think, in terms of, if you want to be a pessimist, right, this could be a nice Rorschach test for your Gamecock fandom. You can look at the 8 of 11 tacklers from last year moving on, and that's fair. But another thing, if you want to be an optimist, you can look at the history of T-Rob, Sterling Lucas, in terms of their development of talent, because they've gotten plenty of talent in, and there is a proven track record of development to where maybe that learning curve isn't as daunting as it would be in other years. Or you look at what they're returning in the secondary, which is outside of Nick Emenwari, which, again, big loss. Jalen Kilgore coming back is maybe an underrated element of this team. And that may or may not be the guy who, led the SEC in interceptions last year. You got one of the more coveted transfer portal players at the corner position in Brandon Cisse. Judge Collier, certainly a player that was incredibly relied upon last year to stop the opposing team's passing attack. And I think we'll see him get a lot better this year with another offseason in the program. Players that can make jumps, but there's two ways to look at it. With what you lost and with a plenty amount of talent returning, but some players being in bigger roles, and that's where the next man up thing comes from.
He said the next man up. He also said a thing that I think is really important. He said that he had faith in Clayton White and staff, as you just brought up the idea of that staff. And I think that is a very important point to think. We as fans are putting our trust in their ability to develop players. That's where we are right now. We haven't seen a lot of these players. We know that they're previously ranked. We know where they were recruited. We know they're stars, yada, 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 yada. But we haven't seen them perform. And what we have to trust is that this coaching staff is able to develop and be able to put out a product where the old cliche, they don't rebuild, they reload, that type of conversation. That's what we have to believe in. That's yet to be seen. I understand the idea of having the worry meter Bulldog Ben, but what we're gonna put our faith in Clayton White, and he said he had faith in Clayton White. So we'll see.
And that's really going to be like the most important people on this team and the staff is their ability to develop those guys. And some of the work has already been done. Some of it will have to happen throughout the season because you do have so many new guys. But for guys like Brian Thomas Jr., Desmond Umazulu, Monkel Goodwine, Nick Barrett, guys who have been in this program for at least a year now, who are now going to be asked to do more than they had to do last year and in previous years. Now it's their year to be able to take those roles over and be able to expand upon them well enough to be able to be not just serviceable players, but really good players at those positions. The bright side about the player development and replacing a lot of players is that the work in terms of developing some of them has already been done over the course of a couple of years, especially guys like Desmond, Brian, Nick Barrett, who have been here for multiple years. Those pieces have already been brought into play. Monkel Goodwine, first year here last year, maybe taking a second-year step. But the fact that you have a couple of guys that we just mentioned, and though Vakari Swain in there as well on the back end of the defense, been here for a while, and that type of work has already been put in. We just haven't gotten to see it reflected on a football field in a game yet.
And also, we think about from last year, when we went into that season, there was really only Nick Emenwari who was coming off of a little bit of a sophomore slump. And everybody else on the defense was sort of a no-name type of defense anyway. And they proved themselves throughout the year. And so maybe you're hoping for it to replicate that same type of success.
So I understand some of Ben's skepticism. But if I have a Bulldog Ben skepticism and the 8 on his worry meter, mine's a little lower than 8.
I'll say this. Ben Watson is one of the finest products the state has ever produced as an athlete and just as a general person. He is the guy. So even though you may disagree, I would say you have to at least take what Bulldog Ben says with a grain of salt because he is the dude.
Yes, he's a really good dude. Josh Harris, also a really good dude. He's going to join us like he always does next because coming up on the early game, it's the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge here on the early game. Ben Watson, good dude. Josh Harris, good dude. The folks at Midstate Roofing, good dudes and dudettes, and they have been for nearly 30 years as a proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and they are here for you. They understand the importance of having a good roof to protect your home. Not just good, a great roof, because it's essentially the offensive line of your home, protecting and keeping you sheltered and having everything that you need to make sure that you have a healthy home. It doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, or the job's manufacturing to industrial. Midstate Roofing for nearly 30 years has designed and installed bonded systems with a protective guarantee to keep that operation running long into the future. And they have incredible versatility too. You call 803-356-1919 after hours, you can still talk with a technician. And then of course you can always hit them up during hours. Again, 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Still trying to get things cleaned up. Broad River Road at Kennerly, also Old Barnwell Road at Emmanuel Church Road. I-26 eastbound just after exit 97. I-20 eastbound at Highway 1. Two more to make you aware of, Highway 302 at South Lake Drive and Augusta Highway at Kittywake Drive. Yep, rain in the forecast today. Patches of it throughout the day. Should be tapering off maybe early this evening. A high of 88. They're saying some thunderstorms in the afternoon tomorrow and Saturday are a possibility. Tomorrow's high 92, 89 on Saturday, but we see the thing called a sun, and we might actually see that for a few days starting on Sunday. So we look forward to that. 77 currently on 107.5 The Game.
It's time to go racing. The Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. Jen has revved her engines up, and it's easy for her to be able to rev the engines up because she picked a winner last week. Give it up for one, Jen Jensen.
All right, Jen.
I tried to make it easy, and, that was kind of hopefully a no-brainer, but with my luck this season, something would have happened. But it panned out, so I'm pretty excited about that.
SVG survived the Jen Jensen curse.
No, truly. I actually talked to Kyle Larson one time, and I said, I'm so sorry. I've picked you for this week, so I hope that doesn't do anything, against you. Because,
and I bet it was in the back of his mind the entire time. The Jen Jensen curse looms way too strongly in those communication systems.
Yep, I'm pretty sure I heard it on the radio that one day where he mentioned that to the crew chief. Yep.
With a few expletives in between.
Right. Well, welcome in, Josh. We appreciate you joining us. Speaking about SVG, fourth straight road course win for him. I mean, he is just absolutely dominant. And that win, didn't know if you guys knew, but that win actually gets him isn't that correct that he's rookie? He's now gotten the most wins for a rookie.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's now a new record. So very, very cool to see. Obviously, he's taking advantage of the tracks that are his specialty. Much like Preston took advantage of that there for about 3 weeks in a row with picking SVG and then Hamlin. And I mean, I was looking at our standings. We've had 5 of the last 6 race winners picked. So the points have been changing up a little bit, and maybe I can jump in there this week. It's been back since actually Darlington's first race of the year, but the last time I picked a winner. So we'll get to that in a minute. But it was a cool race out at Watkins Glen. I think a lot of what we expected, high speeds. SVG was able to get out and pretty much, dominate. He had to come through the field a couple of times just with the pit stop strategy, but he clearly had the best the best car. And then I think maybe it doesn't get as highlighted as much when you have a driver doing that, but there were some good battles through the field, that maybe didn't quite get that same level of coverage just given what was going on at the front. But overall, I think a successful weekend, big crowd up there in Watkins Glen, and now we move on to a short track.
Yeah, lots of short track action and excitement there. SVG probably will not be our pick for this week. He's still kind of learning the ovals and the short tracks and everything. And
well, if Reggie wants to pick SVG this week, we'll let him.
You know what? I did not see that on his list, and I'm surprised. But maybe we can sort of make that happen and just oops, sorry, our bad. And it was kind of cool to see an interview with SVG's dad. His dad has had a lot of loss. Like they lost his mom, SVG's mom, so his wife, I think his sister, and someone. I mean, just a lot of loss in the past month. So it was so great for him to be able to actually be at the track, watch his son win, and just kind of experience all of the excitement around his son this season.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we don't always hear about those stories that are happening in these drivers' lives, and sometimes we forget, with all athletes, that they are people also, and they're not just these celebrities, and they go through the same things, and it's ultimately their choice and how much of that they share of their personal life, and you never really know what's going on. So that is really neat, for his dad to be able to be there and celebrate that and hopefully bring a little bit of joy to them in this time. I was reading an article last night that Jeff Gluck does 12 questions with a driver every week, and similar, he asked Denny Hamlin what was the most, uncomfortable he's been in a car, and I guess last year at Iowa, which he's never talked about, no one knew, he was really sick, not feeling well, went 2 laps down in that race. And so there's sometimes things that the drivers deal with that we never know about, and sometimes it's good to be reminded that they might not always be on top of their game.
Yeah, and they do tend, I mean, most people can't go an entire year without getting sick, and it seems like, they just keep on keeping on. SVG was sick in Mexico. He kept on keeping on. He did share a little too much after that race. But then you look at the Xfinity Series, and on full public display, poor Connor Zilich taking a tumble when he was trying to celebrate and fell out of the car. But he's at least, again, had some fun with it. He had to have surgery and have plates and screws or something put in his collarbone to kind of heal him up. And he had a bracelet, one of those hospital bracelets that said fall risk. I just think there's going to be a whole new theme surrounding Connor Zilich this season, just saying.
Yeah, well, I was watching that post race and saw that happen, and it immediately just you feel terrible, and your mind goes to the worst. Just did he hit his head? So it was very encouraging that, by later that evening you get positive reports, and then obviously the next day some really positive reports, and now Connor is actually having a little bit of fun with it. So unfortunate that he did have the broken collarbone. Looks like he's getting mended up from that. Hopefully, somebody asked me this week if I think he'll race at Daytona, and I think that's a track where he could actually run at the back, and then at the first caution period come in and have a relief driver. He would still earn all the points, and so it'll be interesting to see if they do that or if they just bypass that race and then try to see if he's well enough to get in the car at Portland. But their playoffs start a little bit later in the Xfinity Series, so he's got a couple extra weeks to heal up before they start the playoffs, I think, in Bristol in about a month.
Yeah, definitely proof that, again, they go through things and they really, like most athletes, they do persevere. So we know that you guys are persevering as getting closer and closer to the Southern 500. Tell us a little bit about what's going on before we get our picks for this week.
Well, I mean, we're less than 2 weeks now from having campers arrive and be on property. We will have a full week of activities, from track laps for charity. We've got the hauler parade. We've got a couple of live music events in the fan zone taking place on Friday as a kind of a weekend kickoff after Truck Series qualifying completes. We're going to have a little post-truck race concert in the fan zone leading into the Terrence Caraway 5K. And then we announced a couple weeks ago that the Busch Light Summer Concert Series is coming. Kip Moore will be doing a pre-race concert on Sunday down on the track. So it'll be a really cool weekend, lots of things going on, and our team's just kind of putting the final touches on all of our plans, getting the final paint done around the track, making sure this place looks great as always, and it's gonna be here before we know it.
Still tickets are available, I assume?
Still got a few. The ticket sales have really picked up in the last month, and that's great to see. But you can still get some. We're going for that 5th consecutive sellout, so don't wait too long. Tickets are available at darlingtonraceway.com, or you can call us at 866-459-RACE.
Nice. We're looking forward to it. Elijah.
Looking forward to it as well.
We're, I think it's time to make picks, and sadly, I'm still at the end. I'm with 74 points. Josh has 78. Let's see. Bill has 81. Preston keeps moving up, 82. Reggie is just killing us with 90. So, I'm not going to overthink it this year. Denny Hamlin has won 5 races in Richmond, so I'm not a fan of Denny Hamlin, but I will be this week just to try to pull out a win. So that takes us to Josh. Josh, who are you thinking for this week?
Well, I'm going to try to go with the averages as well. The guy that's been, still racing, that has the best average finish in the last 6 races at Richmond is a guy I've been a little polar on, with my picks. Do I pick him or not? But I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. Hopefully finishes up near the front, if not getting a win, and we'll see if those 2 Toyota drivers end up battling it out.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so our what I call you, celebrity pick.
The celebrity
Elijah,
pick.
You're the celebrity pick.
Yes, I'm trying to do Bill justice. Well,
okay. So who are you
we
thinking?
cheer on Bill as well. So
Dick
Bill,
Trickle?
I'm trying so hard here. They took my first two options, so we're going to option number 3.
Okay.
Give me Chase Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe. Nice choice. All right, Preston, who you got? You're becoming more and more educated in
We're getting close. I was doing a little bit of reading. Did I decide to somebody who wins a lot at Richmond or somebody who's never won?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going with somebody who has never won. Give me Chase Elliott.
Nice. He's good on short tracks. Good call. All right, so that means Reggie is with Ryan Blaney. So we'll see who comes out dominant this week. Hey, Josh, we really appreciate it. I know you're very busy out there. Appreciate your time. And again, darlingtonraceway.com, place to go to get tickets before they are sold out, and we will do our best
Be
to try to
seeing
help
you soon.
I know. We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. I enjoy the weekly visits and look forward to having you here at the track in a couple of weeks.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll be at there 2 weeks from tomorrow doing the show. We'll get Elijah introduced and looking forward to it.
Never been. I'm excited.
Yay. Speaking of winners.
Yeah, that's a winner. Hopefully one of us picked a winner, but we'll give our winners for today's show, and there are plenty of candidates next here in the early game. If tax issues, something that people don't like to talk about a lot, but if you have some tax issues that have been bothering you, weighing you down a little bit for yourself or your business, the Ecton Law Firm, here to help. John Ecton and his team are perfectly ready to offer you the peace of mind that you deserve because of the proven local solutions that they've used to help thousands of families and businesses just like yours escape that pesky IRS maze. So if that's something that's been bothering you, something that's been kind of lingering, or something you're procrastinating about, I got a phone number for you. 803-771-9800. Because that free consultation, yes, free consultation, that's the best part, easy to get started, can help you get on the path of tax-free worry life. EctonLawFirm.com as well. It's ECTONLawFirm.com. Again, 803-771-9800, the John Ecton Law Firm. We want winners. I wish we had winners. That's the lyric in the song, right? That was what Skilo was wishing for.
That's correct.
But we have good news for Skilo, and that is that we have plenty of winners on today's show. And Preston Thorne, I have an idea that some of it will be centered around what people are labeling or tagging as their Venmo or Cash App transactions.
Yeah, my first one, I'm going to shout out to you, Corey, the Cash App comedian. You get the show. You've sent us in a screenshot of what you were working with.
Let's just say it lives up to the billing.
It lives up to the billing. Also, not something that your mother-in-law you would want your mother-in-law to see. So yeah, great job, Corey, the Cash App comedian. Might be a new genre, man.
It could.
Might be a new
Cash App comedian.
Might be a new genre. So yeah, kids, remember, these ledgers can be public unless you decide to not make them public. So go in your settings options right now and make it private.
Make it private. And as we have also learned, I think a big winner for today's show is just lessons being learned, because we did have a texter on the Firehouse Subs text line say that he does, or this person does money laundering investigations for work, and they absolutely look at Venmo descriptions. That is something they absolutely look at. So as much as I think mine are funny and completely off base from what it is I'm actually getting, that is being noted. I'm not saying I'm under any money laundering investigation. Don't ever plan on it, but it will be looked at. So we learned lessons today.
I would need money to be able to launder that.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't have that part.
This is true.
The only laundering I do is laundry for my clothes.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Working on that. I'm going to give a winner to Marcus Freeman, who, because he's so handsome and such a great coach, has managed to keep under wraps that, hey, he's in the middle of a quarterback competition.
Pretty privilege extends out to the football field, too. It does. It does.
There might be something here for this. So, Marcus Freeman, you got us with your beautiful batting eyes and you're a good football coach. We've given you a lot of credit. We've given you a lot of space to get this correct. Elijah, you brought it to my attention. Notre Dame, you're under my microscope now.
That first game against Miami, a lot more interesting now, because there is going to be a quarterback for Notre Dame making their first career start in a season opener. Only happened two other previous times. It's only the third time that will ever happen. So really, one of my big winners for today, too, still same topic. That game is more interesting. It's already interesting to be a top 10 showdown. It's even more interesting when you take into account that there will be a first-time starter in that game for a program like Notre Dame's on a national stage, and if they're that close in terms of the competition for the quarterback, what we're going to see after the first quarter. I have seen some teams that have had, I think 2004 Tennessee is the first one that comes to mind. They go into the season with two true freshmen, but they were going to play. They were having a training camp battle. No clear winner. And one Brent Schaefer started the game. Eric Ainge played in the second quarter. And they basically split up reps until about the fourth or fifth game, or second or third. Probably third was when Eric Ainge took a majority of the snaps, but Schaefer would come in a little bit. They played two quarterbacks for a couple of weeks in the season before eventually figuring it out, and it was easy to figure out when one player breaks their clavicle and the other has to play the rest of the year. But that's just one example that comes to mind where a team comes in and they like both quarterbacks and end up just playing both to start. How's Notre Dame going to handle that? Even if, I know Notre Dame is one of the most polarizing teams in college football, I think the intrigue of that situation makes that game between Notre Dame and Miami even more of a winner than it already was.
One more winner. Did not expect his name to come up today. South Carolina legend, Everett Golson.
Yeah.
Everett
Golson mentioned
Myrtle
on this
Beach
program.
legend. We didn't know that was going to happen today, but Everett Golson was a monster in high school football in the state. So shout out to Everett Golson. Shout out to Notre Dame quarterbacks.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, while we're doing South Carolina Notre Dame quarterbacks, Tony Rice.
Oh,
old school. Give it out to Tony Rice. So, yeah, there was a pipeline for a while there.
Oh, yeah, and a pipeline for us to have another successful show tomorrow at 6 a.m. Tyler Head and the Extra Point is next. The roof is like the offensive line of your home, acing in protection and keeping you, your family, your pets dry and safe, and keeping that building running for a long time. The same way Midstate Roofing has been a leader in that roofing and waterproofing industry for a long, long time. That proven history is your assurance that the professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the specific needs of your facility, and it's a manner that's both safe and pleasing to your operation. Does not matter if it's a high-rise or hospital, manufacturing to industrial, home or business, or it doesn't matter if the issue that you have arises late at night or early in the morning before normal business hours, because if you call 803-356-1919 after hours, then you can speak with a technician that is on call, and then, of course, during hours, you can talk to a Midstate Roofing member during those business hours. Again,